Hello, I'm William Bryant, and welcome to the new episode of Dragonology. And in today's episode, I'm going to focus purely on Dragon Ball.
But you
Shut up! So yeah, I decided to not cram every movie or show with dragons in it into one single episode, considering that it wouldn't give any of them justification, since each one has their own unique folklore and add to the folklore. With that being said, let's start with Dragon Ball. Now, beside my fandom of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, I am not going to focus so much on any of the characters or anything really. Everything that's going to be talked about here is completely based on Shenron and pretty much the Namekians, since they're the ones that created him. So, anyway, starting off with Shenron, let's talk about his design. One interesting thing to take note is that while Shenron is maybe based off physically the design of the Long Dragon from Chinese folklore, which is usually showed for empowerment and pretty much part of their cultural flag of the Imperial Army, I think. I need to call it. But from that, he pretty much has the typical Chinese dragon design. Very scaly, very long, has very fish scales, and has pretty much like elk horns on his head. So that is something interesting to point out. But the Japanese dragon, the Ru dragon, which normally comes from water, is the one that designed of him that grants the wishes. They are typically known to be granting wishes, which Shenron does. So that is sort of something of a point to take interest on. Now, why he comes from balls, I think that's something from Akira Toriyama completely. I haven't found anything on that. I think it's based off the Monkey King or Journey to the West, which I haven't really read much in a while. And the only thing I remember of that was Monkey King wrote himself off of the list of death, so basically making himself immortal. And I know I'm completely butchering it, but yeah. So that is one thing about Shenron that is really good to take note of. He is based off of two mythological versions of dragons. The wish granting come from the Japanese mythos and the Chinese mythos. That is something that I think is really good and very fun to take a look at. Now, the one thing that I do find a little interesting is that after Dragon Ball, or during the original Dragon Ball, it was essentially Kami that created it, which at the time was just God, or a great spirit, for its literal translation, and then Piccolo being the demon. So, from that, it kind of was saying that dragons were created by the gods. And instead of there being multiple dragons, as most mythos, there's only one, Shenron. Shenron is basically a Ru dragon, but with a long dragon design. I may be mispronouncing it due to accent, but that is what I'm thinking. I think it's wrong. But anyway, so yeah, created by God. That's kind of an interesting concept, and it adds a lot to folklore. That, if anything, a great spirit's more in tune to the dragons than they are to humans. That is what I found interpreted from that. But so there isn't really much to say of it, considering that Namekian was his own creation, especially in Dragon Ball Z, where he just kind of made them into slug people instead of demons and gods. So, one thing I'm going to just say is I love the Namekian Shenron design. It's kind of like a really Western meets Eastern style dragon, where, okay, so most Eastern style dragons are very thin and very focused on being agile and slim, while most Western dragons are big, beefy creatures. When they go to Namek, he is just giant lizard like a Naga. That seems to be what his main design is. He seems to be a Naga design dragon. Nagas are basically dragons, but their upper halves are a lot bigger than their lower halves. They have slithery lower halves, but kind of humanoid upper halves. So that is something that I found very interesting. So outside of that, since I don't really know much of GT since I never really touched it. The thing about dragons from Dragon Ball is that a lot of it seems to be grabbing different cultures of dragons and just putting them into one. The Namekian Shenron seems to be a Naga plus a Ru dragon, while Shenron from Earth is more of a long dragon with a Ru dragon. So there isn't really much to be said, and to be frank, I know I can't really add too much to it since it's a show that's been debated and nitpicked at for years, but I think that is very interesting. Tell me what you guys think, and hopefully this was some interesting information for you guys. I'm gonna try and pump out more videos. Thank you for your time, and have a good day.